1 minute. I would like to call the May 4th, 2021 monthly work session of the Sarasota County School Board to order. First item is capital projects. Dr. Asplin, would you like to introduce the presenters?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Our first item, as you said, is capital projects, and Jody Dumas and Mickey Ryan and Jane Drager are here to help us through that today. So, Jody.
All right, well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to come before you and talk about our capital plan. So today I've got Sheena Runyons is going to be partnering up with us today. Sheena does all of our revenue on the capital side of the budget. Jane Drager double booked, and so she's running a selection committee right now, so she couldn't be here. So Mickey, myself, and Sheena will handle the presentation for you. So just to remind you, as part of our communication with the board in the CIP, capital improvement plan, your capital budget. We come to you about 4 times a year, just throughout the year, to let you know where we are in terms of budget development, project status, and overall kind of goals and objectives, setting the tone for the coming school year with the capital budget. This particular meeting today is to review a draft of what we think the 5-year plan might look like. And again, when you adopt the plan, over the summer, you vote officially on the CIP and the plan. You are adopting 1 year, the current year that we're in, and the next 4 years are kind of a look ahead. So they're a planning document that we're all working towards. And so when you adopt a 5-year plan, you're really adopting this current year that we're in, and the next 4 are kind of those working years moving forward. So having said that, what we provided in the read ahead for you was a draft, our current capital improvement plan. We gave you the entire plan to take a look at. That's the plan we're currently under. And in that plan was last year's projected 5-year plan. So you had a chance to look at that, I think, and take a look at where we've changed things moving forward. So you had the draft plan. You had, from Mickey in the planning department, the updated enrollment numbers, the 5-year projections on enrollment. Because as we have the discussion today, there are a couple new items you're going to see that we've been talking about, but you've not officially seen them in any document, and that's for a couple of schools and some developments in South County to accommodate that growth down there. So certainly that's new to you in terms of actually seeing it in a budget somewhere. So we've got the enrollment we provided to you, the 5-year projected enrollment, and Mickey's going to speak to that a little bit. We also provided kind of our draft 5-year working capital budget. That's staff getting together over the last several months and putting that draft together. But again, it is only a draft, and we've adopted those based on what we think you want to see. But certainly this is the type of meeting where if there are things that are not in there that we need to include, we want to make sure we listen to you regarding those. Or if goals and objectives have changed a little bit, we want to make sure we incorporate those as we move forward. And then it was a little late. It wasn't the original packet, but there was basically a debt summary that Sheena did and provided to you, and she'll walk us through that a little bit here today. But because we're going to be suggesting that we borrow in order to take care of some of the capacity needs we're going to have over the district in the next few years, you always want to be mindful of what's our ability to carry more debt in relation to the revenue in the capital budget. And so Sheena provided that summary so you could see as we move forward, if you make that decision, where we'll be in terms of our debt carrying capacity. So we'll also have an opportunity to review that here today. So with that, I thought what we would do is kind of kick it off with a little summary of kind of the revenue in Sheena's area of revenue over the next 5 years and what her projections are based on. So Sheena, if you want to start us there, and then maybe take us through a little bit about the debt capacity analysis that you did so the board can see where we are.
Okay, great. Okay, most of our revenues are sales tax and millage, as you know. And we've been working, first of all, I want to tell you, we've been working with Sarasota County government to develop our sales surtax 4 that's coming up. And so it is incorporated in this revenue as if it is going to pass. In 25, 26, if it doesn't pass, our revenue, of course, will be different than what it shows here. But we're just moving forward just as if surtax 4 will pass for planning purposes. There's not really a lot of difference. We're not being hurt too much by anything because people are still coming to Florida. Our revenues are staying consistent. We're expecting, between 1% and 4% increases, just like always. And so we have not really cowed down the revenue at all, other than not doing the 6% increases that we used to see. So we're being very conservative there, but still being realistic in what's, happening historically. Sales tax has not been hurt all that much. We're still collecting revenue in sales tax, just like we've done in previous years. So unless you have any questions about revenue, we'll move on to the debt profile.
I'm sorry, Bridget?
That's okay. Just a quick question. The amount of surtax that we receive, do we do, and I assume I like the positive that would pass, but do we have an analysis from a cost, a financial standpoint, what that would look like?
I do have a split in that year where it's split, their calendar year, we're July to the end of June. So I do have an analysis of the split. It's about a $10 million difference.
Okay.
And then, of course, if something happens that doesn't pass, we'd have kind of half a year's revenue and then 0 going forward in the sales tax category.
Okay, but so you guys do have a projection of, in the event of worst case scenario. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Tom, did you have a question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
The beginning fund balance takes a pretty significant dip in 23-24. I was wondering what accounts for that, and then 25-26 is the other direction, significantly higher. And I wanted to know what the reasons were.
The biggest reason for the dip in 23-24 is the start of construction on the K-8 at Clark and Lorraine and the Goshio classroom wing. Because even though we're borrowing funds, that's not all we're doing. We're using some other funding for those projects to get them kick-started. So that, of course, takes our fund balance down somewhat. I mean, it's not significant based on the amount that we're going to spend to build that school and do the classrooms at the Goshio project, because the two projects together are estimated to be around $66 million. So that's the reason for the significant drop in the fund balance going into 23-24. And then, of course, as we're going out with projects, there's stuff that we haven't seen yet that we know is going to be on here, but it's not on here yet. So that fund balance going out 5 years, that's gonna take a hit at some point because there will be more projects added going out that far.
Thanks. That gives me a better span of projects. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Anything else on that?
My question would go more towards items that are on here, and one of them is the Oak Park Special Olympics track.
So, yeah,
I
so I
had people
think,
questioning that, and they were saying, why are we doing this when they currently use the Pineview track?
so I think what we'll do, so in terms of the structure of the presentation, so we're going to talk a little bit
Okay,
of revenue,
fine.
debt capacity, carrying capacity,
Okay,
space, and then we'll dig into the projects at the end,
Okay.
and yeah.
good idea, thank you.
Okay, so going forward with the debt profile, it's a graphic that was created from several large spreadsheets that you probably wouldn't even want to see. So this usually takes me a few days to complete one of these, but I was able to work from home, so I had peace and quiet, and I did it in an afternoon and evening. So this just basically shows the debt that we have right now, the Series 210A, the Series 2016, and I moved the debt that you currently see in the budget for COPS up to 2022 because we're not expecting to borrow until July, August of 2022. So you'll see that come in there. It's in the green. And then Series 2024 is to build the schools in the Welland Park area, both the K-8 and the high school. And the Series 2027 is for a project that's slated to come in 27, 28, or 28, 29, one of those years. It's not even on this sheet, but I put it on here. Then, after looking at our fund balance, after going through all of these, we think we may be able to pay for Lakewood, the elementary and Lakewood Ranch without doing this $30 million borrowing. So you will probably see that come off of the debt profile in the future because it looks like we'll be able to pay cash to build that elementary school instead of doing a borrowing. The purple line shows the school board's debt, their district policy for debt maximums. As you can see, it's way above anything that we're planning to borrow. The olive line is the statutory limit set by the legislators, and that represents 75% of our capital outlay millage. Our policy, however, is 50%, which is lower than the statutory limit, so that's why you see the big space between those two lines. Does anybody have any questions about the debt profile?
I have one just for clarification. So, so when you read this, the red series, for instance, Series 2016, which is in red, looks like that will actually sunset in 2025. Is that correct?
That is correct.
As we bring on more debt. So as some debt sunsets, we bring more debt on. We're staying pretty much the same across the board all the way through 2036, which is still well below our cap.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions about revenue or the debt profile that you have in front of you? Okay, having none, then I will ask Mickey Ryan to kind of just take us through some of those key areas, Mickey, in terms of the new build off of Lorraine Road and then the new proposed high school and K-8 in South County. If you take us through kind of what the projections are looking like.
Red is on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there we go. Hi, as you all know, we've identified 3 areas in the county, and we've given you presentations on those that are high growth areas where we have a lot going on with development projects. We have High Hat, we have Welland Park, Winchester Ranch, Lakewood Ranch is building a lot. So we've identified and brought those to you, before. The project that's really taking off is the Welland Park projects. We see those site plans coming in constantly. They're really growing rather quickly. They are proposed to have, 16,000 more units in their development, and they're going strong. Winchester Ranch, which is just adjacent to them on the south, is going to have 10,600 units. They just got approved by the county commission like last month. So they're good to go for their next step. They got their overall comprehensive plan and critical area plan approved, so they'll be going in for their rezones next, and then we'll be seeing their plats and site plans coming in. So there's a lot going on there. As you know, Taylor Ranch is just about busting at the seams at the moment. They have a negative 36 capacity there. So we're going to be putting some portables there until we can get some capacity built with the new K-8 that should help with that area. And also Venice High, that's the districted school for that area. And as you can see, they have a negative capacity of 200. So they're going to be busting at the seams also. So there's a whole lot of growth happening in that immediate area that's going to affect the timing of this new school. And I think it's probably just going to be right on point when we are able to open that. The K-8 and the high school, actually. So, and the K-8 off of Lorraine, we have a lot of development going on there with Sky Ranch. Areas High Hat goes next month to get their approval with the county commission. I have identified from them, just as a refresher, I got a K-8 site and a high school site identified on their, that will be on their approved site plan. We will have to purchase it with impact fee monies, but it'll be identified. Just like Winchester Ranch, I got a K-8 site. So we should be in good shape in the future in those areas, because we'll have the land, ready whenever we need it. But also mid-county, the Laurel Road area, Palmer Ranch, is now going east of the interstate, plus south of 681. There's a ton of development in there too, and that's the area that's districted to Laurel Nokomis and to Venice High. So we've got just these pockets that somehow merge together, but yet they're affecting all these schools. You've got Ashton, Sarah Middle, Lakeview, Venice High, Taylor Ranch. Venice Middle will be affected too. So, as well as you will talk at some point about the students that are districted to Charlotte County in that mix. So we've got a lot going on in lots of different places.
Any questions about what we're seeing for growth? Any of the numbers that we provided in the read? Any questions about that before we start talking more specifically about the projects?
There's nothing in here that shows that we've opened any school by 25. So we won't have any new schools open by then?
By 2025?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you just asked me? So it would be close. We'd be right on the cusp of opening. So we'd be opening the K-8 off of Lorraine Road, which I've got a project timeline I want to send you. I'll pass around. You can take a look at when we talk about that here. So the K-8 off of Lorraine Road.
Which current schools would they be drawing the students from?
Well, we're still talking about that. So we've got a team right now working on the planning for that project. And that is right now what we're talking about in terms of what does the district look like. But certainly we're going to want to take care of all that growth that's east of the interstate for Palmer Ranch that Mickey just alluded to, down through Laurel Road area. And then we'd also want to include picking up and relieving some of Ashton, some of Lakeview. So it's a comprehensive look at all those overcrowded schools. And then at the middle school, certainly Sarasota Middle. So that's being contemplated right now, and I'll pass that out as we get there so you can see what the team's looking at.
And I have a question.
Karen?
Yes, when you're referencing the available capacity on this report, is that realistic, those numbers? Or I know in the past, those numbers didn't necessarily, through the reports with the state, match the actual seats that we have in our schools. So how realistic are these available capacity numbers?
These numbers are based on permanent fish capacity minus the percentage that you take off overall, like the 90%, 95% at the different schools. So we take that number out of FISH, permanent capacity only, subtract normally the October enrollment counts. For this exercise with COVID, we took the 8-month counts for April and put those in here, so we got a little bit better idea what we were dealing with capacity. And I anticipate that with the future October enrollment counts coming up, with all the phone calls and all the stuff we've been getting and the amount of people moving here, you're liable to see even higher numbers for enrollment, I think, which will affect our capacity also.
Okay, thank you.
What I just passed out to you is talking about the new K8 at Lorraine Road. And so when we get there in the project conversation, we can refer back to that. All right, any other questions? And then we'll start talking about the individual projects you see on the scope in front of you. All right, so I am...
Would now be the time for you to answer the question about the track?
Sure, I can jump around. I was planning to go through each one and explain, but if you guys want to just ask questions, we could do that too.
Go through each one then. I thought you just asked for questions. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay, so I'm working off the 5-year plan, and again, I'm sorry.
So sorry. Madam Chair, may I?
Bridget?
Just from an overview standpoint, and I think you'll get there when as you gave the Gantt chart, but can you speak to how, because you mentioned, we're having an influx of people moving here, and so it can skew some of these projections, and I know you guys monitoring that very, very closely, and so just if you guys can speak to that as we go through the projects.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So just running through quickly, just so you have a handle on what each of these projects are in the scope. And if you got any questions, stop me as we're going. The Bay Haven project you see on your list we'll finish up the funding this year, so we'll be fully funded as of July 1. That was a 2-year funding cycle, and so we're talking about $12 million. That's a complete HVAC renovation / classroom renovation in the old buildings at Bay Haven, desperately needed. The Booker High VPA project, this year is the last year of funding. That takes that project to just around $22 million. You approved the additional scope at Booker High VPA earlier this year. Cranberry Elementary thermal storage is at some point, we'd like to get to the point that we're adding thermal storage at all of our locations. Again, it doesn't save energy, it saves dollars. And so we'll go down there and add those additional tanks to Cranberry Elementary. Data transmission alternatives, and Dr. Asplin and I had a conversation about this the other day, and Joe Binswanger's in the room here, but this is basically a placeholder that we've kept on your capital plan for the last several years. In year 4 and 5, it has not moved, but this is just to keep on your radar that if in the event that we had to provide our own services, our IT services, our internet to our schools, we'd have to lay fiber in the ground. This is to remind you that we'd have to pay to put that fiber in the ground at some locations. Not that we think that's going to happen, but it's a potential out in the future. And so that has been there for a while, and it remains in years 4 and 5.
I'm not sure if you know, but our Pineview math students, they did an international math project, and I think it talked about getting broadband services. I don't know. Have you talked to them about the needs?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
And see what they might have said we could do?
Yes, so we let's see, Joe Binswanger and I, we both went to Pineview and met with that group of students who were absolutely incredible, by the way. Talked to them about their project and the fact that they, came in first place in the nation. And afterwards, we did talk to them about that, bandwidth project, some of the things that Joe was working on in the technology area, and they said they'd be happy to sit down with us. So we are going to put a group together, and we're going to sit down with Joe and some of the other tech folks and talk through what our issues are and see if they can help us with that.
Yeah,
So they're very happy to do that, and the project that they put together in their competition, they had 13 hours to put it together and solve the problem and then write a 30-page report all in 13 hours. And it sounds like our project might take them a half an hour, actually. After listening to what they did, they were pretty incredible.
Yeah, I know that they did a lot of research in that time, that team.
So we're looking forward
just
to it.
amazing what they can do.
Yes.
Jane?
Well, that's really what I wanted to reiterate. I think the more that we could get our students involved in this kind of project with the operations area, Jody, I think would be great. But, projects are really what people do in the real world of work. And the more we can get our students experienced with that, the better off they'll be in writing that essay for college and getting into college. So kudos on that. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Moving ahead, the next project you'll see is the remainder of funding for Englewood Building 6 rebuild. That is underway, making great progress down there. Garden Elementary 18 classroom wing, that will be a portable replacement project. The meat of that funding lies outside the 5-year plan, but that's to start down there. That's one of the things certainly has been on the list of Garden Elementary for, I think, since I got hired in the school district. It's been on and off the 5-year plan for a number of years. So hopefully we'll get that done for them eventually. Garden Elementary entry enhancements. This is really parking lot lighting, security type things in the front of the campus, making it more attractive as you kind of come in. And so we've met with Amy and her team down there. This will be a next summer project. We'll do it over the summer. We were going to do it this summer. Timeline's a little tight this summer just because of the end of school being a little bit later. So we're going to get this done next summer for her. So we're already in conversations with her and her team. Goshio new classroom wing and campus refresh. This is increase in budget. And the other thing I will call your attention to, I apologize, I didn't speak to it as being part of the read ahead, but one thing we need to be cognizant of as we move forward in this budget and others in the next couple of years is the increase in construction pricing. Jane Drager, who put together that little synopsis for you just to kind of see what's going on in the industry with materials and everything that's driving construction costs right now, we've got to be very, very careful. Sheena's done a great job of making sure we're escalating projects you see in this 5-year plan, but wanted to provide that to say that we may not have enough cushion in terms of some of these projects. This is part of what's playing out here in Goshio. We're much closer than we were last year. Two things. We got a good handle on some recent construction pricing, so that's driving the cost a little higher. But frankly, there's a little bit of scope increase at Goshio too, and I want to talk to you about that. We've been in some great conversations with the principal and Chris Renoff about what Goshio needs. At the end of the day, this project was really two pieces. It was portable replacement, so building a new wing, and then renovating Building 3, which is the building right on Goshio Ave right there. And then it was some minor renovations in Building 1 to take care of some adjacencies and efficiencies on that campus we've been wanting to do for a while. What the recent change is Mickey and her team have done a great job. We've got a Castaldi report down to the state at this point, which basically is to get permission to tear a building down. We feel very good in some recent conversations with the state that they're going to give us that approval on Building 3. So that's very nice. It cleans the slate with Building 3, which is really, it's a block building, brick exterior, but the interior walls are not set up in any efficient manner. There's little, it's built like an older building. There's little pieces and parts all over the place. And so being able to tear that down and really build a first and second floor classroom wing, really like we did at Fruitville Elementary, kind of mirroring that project at Goshio, will be much better for the school in the long run, but that's driving a little bit more budget. So it's a total of a $15 million budget. That's the add you see this year in this budget to present to you today. But I think at the end of the day, in conversations with the school, with Chris Renoff, it's the right thing to do at Goshio instead of trying to renovate Building 3. So that's why you see this increase in budget with Goshio Elementary moving forward. The next line item is our high school track and field upgrades, which I think are going really well in the district. We're currently at Sarasota High. That'll be done to start the season this year, the football season. They'll have a rubber track and a synthetic turf football field. And our next school, I believe, will be Northport High. We'll go back down there, and then we're going to Booker High, and finally, I believe we end up in Venice High with completing their football field. So once we finish with that process, every track and field in the district will be upgraded. And then at the out years, these numbers will come down. They'll represent, there'll always be a line item here, I think, for capital upgrade of these fields, because every 8 to 10 years we got to get in and renovate them. We don't know what those numbers look like yet. We need to still develop that. But these out years will come way down, and you'll see just the but the 8 to 10 year renovation based on when we put these fields in place. Landings, restroom repairs. This has been on there for a few years, and we need to continue to keep it on here. And you will probably see us, based on the conversations about the landings, add to this. We have a lot of what I'll call maintenance issues at the landings that we need to take care of. For example, all of our bathrooms have very old piping. All the piping is cracked and leaking, and so what you get is odors in several places, depending on the type of weather or what's going on. And so whether it be bathrooms, HVAC systems that are getting very old and hard to get to. And then we've just got a recent analysis of our green awning building, which I gave to Dr. Asplin to take a look at. A lot of our windows need to be pulled out, redone, recaulked. They're all starting to leak. So there is a lot of maintenance that has to happen at the landings over the next 4 or 5 years, 3 to 4 to 5 years. So this would be the first phase. This will probably be green awning, I would assume we'll get into. But it's that time in these buildings. And I know we always say, don't spend money at the landings. We need to spend at school sites. And I absolutely agree. But I think at this point, we really need to start spending some money at the landings. And so we'll continue to work with Dr. Asplin and develop this project. But I think you're going to see a line item for the next few years focused on the landings, those types of repairs, to make sure we keep a good work environment for the people who work here. Lower Nokomis roof, Booker Middle, actually, Jane Dreger and team are selecting for the Booker Middle roof right now as we speak. As you know, the Lower Nokomis and the Sarasota Middle roof are all the same year. They're all those metal roofs, and so those will be the next 2 schools that get done. They're all in need of replacement. New construction, high school, Welland Park. We talked a little bit with you about that growth that we're seeing down in South County, and this would place that new construction to start right around the year 23-24 with design, and then into construction 24-25. And I will say, as we talk about this, the K-8 in Welland Park, and then the next line item, which is going to be the more recent one that we're going to be moving on, that you've just got the project outline on. I think that our team has really tried to, on the direction of Dr. Asplin, take a conservative approach to how we're looking at these. If you remember, we approved the Lorraine Road project last year, but we did not break ground on it because, again, with COVID-19, the questions about enrollment, there was no reason to get started. And so I think your team will continue to take that conservative approach, even though you're seeing these in the 5-year plan. And as Mickey said, this is our best educated guess at this point. If building happens a little quicker, we may need to slide these a little next year. If at the end of the day, interest rates go up, some of the construction stays down a little bit, or we don't see the students coming out of some of these developments we think will come out, then these may push a little bit. But we'll look at this every year with you and kind of decide together what makes sense for us. But we wanted to get them slotted in. This is where we think they make sense now, so you can see what that might look like in the 5-year plan. So right below that, you see the new K-8. Again, these are the 2 sites that be adjacent to one another. So it'll be the first time we've had the opportunity to put a high school and a K-8 adjacent. And so we're real excited about what those adjacencies look like, not only in terms of sharing bus loop and things like that, but certainly program. That's certainly an exciting thing. How can you share things going on in program between a bunch of different levels and make it better for the students? The more important one, the one that's kind of right on our radar now is the next one down. That's the Lorraine Road one. You can see we've pushed that funding off to 22-23 when we'd have to go actually out and borrow the money to construct the project. But you have in front of you what's going on right now. Dr. Asplin asked us to put this together, and I appreciate that. It was actually a great idea. We have a team set up right now of all of us sitting in front of you today, but also including all the executive directors, Dr. Kingsley, Dr. Asplin, and we're talking about what does a K-8 model look like in Sarasota County. We haven't built one, and so what are the models that are out there? What's the program that goes in? What's the right size for elementary? What's the right size for middle? What does all that look like when it comes together? And so we're doing that right now. We've had some construction teams come in and review what's going on around the state with some of the recent builds. We're actually, as a team, going to go out and we've selected a few sites to go visit some prototypes. Our goal would be to bring in a prototype that we can build more than once, make it very efficient, and then we know how to work with it. Our staff knows how to work with it. We know what works for us in Sarasota County. And so that's the most efficient way to build after you get that done. So that's what we're in the process of doing right now. And again, I think we're very conservative. Mickey alluded to what our plan is at this point is we've got the planning going on behind the scenes. We want to go take a look at what's being built around the state, talk about best practices, let our team internally decide what program looks like at that particular site, and build around what we think the program needs to be. So the facility fits the program instead of the program fitting the facility. I think that's where we want to be.
Jane and Bridget, do you want to ask your questions now or when he finishes his presentation? finish your presentation.
Okay.
Then we'll attack you.
Oh, that's good. Okay, sounds good. So really, when I say we want to be conservative, again, what we're going to do is we've got it slated. We're going to take a look at it again, though, in October. Mickey is exactly right. We're going to take a look at those 40-day counts. What does that look like at 40 days in October? If it still looks like we're on track and we need to get that building going, then we'll move on that timeline you have in front of you, and we'll be out for selections January, February timeframe or so. So again, continuing to look at it to make sure we're building at the right time, not too early, and certainly not too late, so that we've got portables all over the place and eventually affect instruction. Any questions on the new builds?
You want to ask it now? Go ahead.
Sure.
Do you want to finish your presentation and then we'll come back?
whatever you'd
We'll
like to
take it
do.
now then.
My question is, especially as you talked about the new build and for K-8 from a programmatic standpoint, just for clear, and I understand when it's the 21-22 school year, and these are projections out beyond that. So when you look at the Welland Park K-8 and the K-8 Clark and Lorraine, you have the 64 million and 1 million and then 55 million. Can you talk to me about how you come to those those estimates?
So you're talking going from the 55 to the 64, simply escalate in price.
Okay, so
Yep.
it's just market estimate.
Yeah, and so
Okay.
again, what we're trying to do is we'd love to get something on Lorraine Road that becomes our model school. So we just build it again in Welland Park, and so we want to get it right this time. But that's where we grab the efficiency. So if it's not 55 million, if it's 65, or if it's 60, if we can get it done for that. But this is just simply escalating cost, not size or anything.
Perfect.
At this
That's
point.
all I want. Thank you for.
I have a question about that too. You know, you and I watched that video. I think it was League of Women Voters brought the person in about high-performing schools, I think they called it, and that had to do with high energy efficiency. I mean, when we're looking at a prototype, I would like to see that we incorporate some of those things along with other energy efficient issues, and perhaps solar, because now they're talking about, you know, excluding solar from the cost per student station. And
Absolutely, yes.
encourage us.
We are 100% on board with making sure we're looking at all of that. You know, at Booker Middle right now, we are looking at the option of solar on that roof. Our engineers are going to take a look at that to see if it makes some sense for us, and we'll bring that back to you so you can take a look at what that looks like at Booker Middle. But certainly as we move forward, yes. So designing a spec, an energy spec up front, and having everybody bid to that energy spec, again, that's not something we've done in the past. Although we've incorporated a lot of energy saving ideas, we've never put an energy performance spec out at design. And so that's something we'll drive through on this new K-8. So a lot of new things going on, exciting things, but yes, I think that's a great program. Jane Drager, our new director of construction, absolutely is familiar with that process, and so we'll be doing that definitely.
And I know there's a local group that's together that, I don't know if they've ever met with you. I know they wanted to, but they're talking about grants and other programs that are out there that could help us. And I think any time that the community would, could help us, find those grants, I think, we ought to reach out to them.
So I do meet with that group. It's a group of individuals that from the county, the city, and so we are talking about sustainability with the school district and what are the programs we have going on. So those are conversations happening monthly, and so I think you'll see all of that incorporated not only in strategic plan, but certainly in department goals, initiatives aligned across the district. Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Okay, Northport High HVAC and Science Wing refresh. We're still accumulating the money as we move towards that project. That will be a full HVAC renovation, classroom renovation, and then we will be reworking all of the science labs to bring them up to date at Northport High School, as well as some other additional scope issues that we have to take care of while we're down there. But that project is coming up. Question, Ms. Brown, on the Oak Park Special Olympics track. This has really been sitting there for a few years. It's moving forward. I think where we ended up last time is that what we'd like to put at Oak Park is a track for the students at Oak Park to capitalize on, so they can use it on a daily basis while we're there. But I'm not sure the effort into putting a full-fledged competition track, a rubber surface, and all that stuff was what the board wanted to do. At least that's what I heard last time. So my conversations I need to have with Jamie, the principal, at Oak Park, and talk her through what that scope might look like. But that's kind of my understanding of where we are on that project. And
what's the status of the track that's at Pineview? I mean, are we upgrading that to the same level we're doing at our other high schools?
We are not. That stays just an asphalt track.
Thank you. Jane?
I spoke to the principal at Oak Park last year about that track, and just to add a little information, some of the wheelchairs and things that the students are in, they really need that rubberized track in order to manipulate and to feel free to use that for some of their exercise and activities. The sort of the sidebar to it, if you will, or the plus, the cherry on the top, would be the Special Olympics project. So it's a lot of things that they feel they need that track for, that reflect their students.
Sure. And to be honest with you, I have not gone and seen the principal, Jamie, and talked with her about the scope of the project because it was still out a few years, but I need to do that so we get that honed in. But that's where we are. Speaking of Oak Park, we are there this summer, and we will be renovating the DAT Wing, and so that's a nice upgrade facelift for them. So that'll be all new cabinetry, facelift, paint, carpet, what have you, and so we're very excited about that project. We're going to also put all new furniture in there for them, desperately in need of furniture replacement. What you're seeing down here is a walk around campus. We'll do a wing a summer. We think we can get that done and provide Oak Park with a nice new set of classrooms, upgraded, nice and fresh for the students. On page 2 is Sarasota High chiller plant and HVAC renovation in buildings 13 and 14. That's everything east side of campus. Kind of standard what we do across the district. We'll upgrade classrooms when we get there too, fits and finishes, all of that. Sarasota middle roof, you're seeing that slotted in. Again, we had that discussion already. That's a metal roof that's beyond its useful life. School site purchases is basically just a line item, impact fee money being accumulated to at some point as we look to some of the other developments that are coming in where Mickey has secured a site or two. We'll need that money to go ahead and purchase that property. This is a new one to you this year, and this is, I titled it, I struggled with this a little bit, but I'm calling it the STC COOP Continuity of Operations Plan, only because the project is at STC. But what this really is Dr. Asplund has asked us, and rightfully so, to finally put together a disaster/hurricane response plan. We haven't had one really put together in any shape or format since I can remember. This will tie everything together in the district in terms of how we're responding, how we're opening shelters, who does what, when do we do what. So it'll be a very comprehensive plan for the district. But as part of that, we've talked about this for years, but never been able to get anything done. The landings itself, these buildings you're sitting in here right now, are extremely vulnerable to flood and to wind, just because they're an older set of buildings. So we need to make sure we build into our plan, how does the district respond if we get major flooding, if we get major wind damage at the landings? How do we keep essential business operations running? And so this answers that question. So we are planning at this point, we will move all of our operations, essential operations, over to STC. I believe it's building 4. So as you're driving down Proctor Road, the building right to your left, the adult ed building, it's set up actually perfectly to be able to bring our operation in. We got some space set aside. We've worked with Ron DiPillo and his team. So we know we will fit. We could run out of there for an extended period if we had to, if it was several months, where we could have finance running, HR running, all the essential functions to make sure we continue to pay people if we need in the event of a major disaster. But in order to do this, when these buildings were designed, there is a plug over there for a generator. The problem becomes it's essentially missing some parts. It does not have a transfer switch. And so these generators that we would bring in to be able to run the facility out there are, half the size of this room, that you can't just plug them in all the time. It takes a lot of time to set them up. And so essentially we'd have to have an electrician there all the time trying to wire them and unwire them and do all of that. So we need to put in some transfer switches into that building so that we can transfer power. And we need to purchase a generator because there's no generator anywhere. So the 1.8 you see here would set that building up to be able to move our essential operations over there, but also be able to operate over there in terms of an emergency response team, a hurricane. So a place for Dr. Asplund and his critical team to go to and operate as an emergency operations center, just like the county does in their particular buildings. And so that's that new line item in front of you today. Taylor Ranch thermal storage is the same as Cranberry. It'd be adding thermal storage to that particular HVAC plant down there. Tuttle Elementary chiller is a replacement of their chiller on campus. The Venice High locker room / equipment building. This one caught us off guard. We had a call not too long ago to facilities department that said there was an issue with this building. This is the building by the pool that's the locker room, and it's also the equipment room for the pool equipment. There is a major structural problem with the building, and it can't be repaired. It's a very small building, so we're thinking it's probably about $750,000, but we need to tear it down and we need to build a new pool equipment building. We can't repair the one that's there. So this one, I apologize. This one did catch us off guard, but that's what that line item is there for you to consider. And so that takes us down to our total funded projects over the 5-year period. So if there are any questions on these individual projects or something you don't see, feel free to ask.
I see no requests to ask you questions at this point. Are we going to go over the booklet that you put out too?
So the CIP, yeah. So it was funny. I thought I was really clear when I sent it out, but then Mitzi called me a little while ago and said, "Jody, you confused everybody." And then I said, "No, I didn't." And then Mickey came and said, "Jody, you confused me." And I said, "Well, I guess I did confuse everybody. I apologize." That is your current CIP, which you adopted last year, which we're working through. And my goal was to provide that as part of the read ahead so that you could see where we've come from and where we're going to. So in terms of process, we're reviewing again the 5-year plan with you today, kind of our projection of what that would look like. We will come back to you in June with a brand new CIP.
And updated board members and all of that.
Yes. Everything gets updated every year, once a year.
Great.
And so, yes, we will update all of that. Usually that's in June. And again, if there are anything that you saw in that board priorities or goals or things that we need to readdress differently this year, certainly that could be part of the conversation today. So again, back in front of you again with a revised, based on any conversations today, a revised 5-year plan and updated CIP going into next year. And I did forget one item I just wanted to mention before I finish up today. We had a conversation last workshop, I believe, about the opportunity to partner with the county with a shared training, fire science training area off of Knights Trail. And you had said, go back and get me some more information. I just wanted to give you an update on where we are with that. I had the county team in here and talked with them a little bit about scope and timing. And so they're planning to break ground in November. So they're going to be very quickly on phase 1, which is critical for us because you got a draft plan here, and we'll be bringing a final plan in front of you in June. So behind the scenes conversations right now are happening with Ron DiPello and his staff from Fire Science along with the county team to see exactly what buildings we would need to have on that campus, what could we share, what can we partner in, trying to get that scope nailed down for you. So they are having those meetings this week and next week. Our goal will be to try and get to the next workshop and give you a quick update. If we wanted to move ahead and get into phase 1 with their design process, it would have to be in this current fiscal year, which you don't see it right now. I left it out. I thought about putting it in as line item, but I said, well, let me leave it out until you guys have another conversation surrounding that project. So conversations with Ron DiPillo and his team and the team from the county. Hopefully next board workshop, give you an update on where we are, see what your feelings are. If it was still a go, then on this final plan that comes in before you this summer in June, it would have a line item in there for that project in this fiscal year. So that's where we are with the fire science.
Thank you. Jane?
Quick question. Where are we with you, Mickey Ryan,
In what respect?
in your leaving, in retirement?
September 30th.
When?
September 30th.
Okay, I was just hoping it was out quite a ways. I couldn't remember. You and I have discussed it, but I was thinking, when?
We will miss you.
We
Thank
certainly,
you.
we certainly will miss
I will
you.
miss you guys.
When
too,
is your new person starting?
She started about 6 weeks ago.
She's already started. That's what I thought. Oh, good.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
And I just want you to know that the new fire science building complex that the county wants to do came through their DRC last week as a pre-application, so they are on the way with that.
Tom?
Well, I'm really glad that you brought up the Fire Academy. It was right here on my list. I guess my overall thought as we're going into June to have that conversation is There's a lot of things that the Fire Academy that popped up. You talk about the caught off guard with the Venice pool building, the Gocio Building 3. That's that popped up. So when I'm listening to the scope, and we've got these new builds that are imminent. What's concerning me is that I think we should hear from you guys as we get closer to a conversation, even if it's in a read ahead, a recommendation, a real solid recommendation. One of the other things that's lying here is that we've not gotten, at least to my knowledge, any report on the condition assessment. Has that happened yet?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I didn't mention it, but the condition assessment is in and is done. Our team has, it's a ton of data, if you can imagine. So every line item is, if there's a broken door on a campus in a building, that's a line item. And so preliminary evaluation has gone into that data. And remember, I referred to a matrix before. All of that will come before you when you adopt the plan. We tried like heck. We just got the condition assessment data probably about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago to complete. And so we tried like heck to get it into the read ahead so you'd have it to look at it. We couldn't get it done and have it correct for you. So understand that the data did go into making these decisions here, but it wasn't ready to present to you. So yes, so condition assessment data driving a matrix that we've all been working on will be in front of you when you adopt the plan in June. But I apologize, Tom, we couldn't get it done in that time.
That's okay, but all I'm pointing out is that there's still things that are hanging out there, and then the unknown factor, and we haven't had a weather event. I mean, any significant things, and on the flip side of all of that, I'm noticing our debt capacity, although significantly lower, we've got a nice little creep happening there. That's a concern. So and the other factor here that I'm glad you brought up, and that report was in the report, but I'm reading it as well about construction costs and materials looking like that's going to take off, particularly, federally. We're looking at our own plan for improvement on the federal level from the infrastructure. So all of that is going to be part of, that's why I think a solid recommendation based upon all of the factors. You guys are in the field. That's going to matter in terms of, really prioritizing some of that. So that would be helpful before we get to June.
No more questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
We ran just a little bit over 10 minutes, but we'll make that up, right?
Thank you very much.
Next, we have the circus lease. Jody, stay seated.
All right, so I will ask Jennifer Mitchell. Jennifer, would you want to come on up? So Jennifer is, come on up. And I'll get out of your way. I'm just going to introduce you. Jennifer is the COO and Executive Vice President, right, of Circus Arts Conservatory. And so they are coming before you to talk about not only program, but certainly some of their thoughts for future endeavors on that site. So with that, Jennifer, take it away.
Pedro, you can sit in this chair, and if Dolly wants to pull up a chair next to you,
if you just say move ahead,
when you're talking, you push the button and it turns red, and then we'll know when you're on. And while you're getting organized, I just want to say how blown away I was by the most recent presentation from the Sailor Circus. Definitely can tell that you got some Cirque du Soleil people on board, but the costuming was wonderful, the lighting was wonderful, the music, and what these kids did, absolutely wonderful. I don't know how you guys keep getting better every year, but you do, and it was a wonderful, wonderful show, and I think Tom can attest to that. Tom?
Yeah, thank you so much. It was absolutely amazing. And what was wonderful was to come and visit you guys on Friday, and then to see the show come to life. And to, we talk about it all the time, about this is what the outcome is, and this is what we want for the kids, and this is what we're hoping will happen. But to sit there and actually see all of that hard work and all of your care and all of your concern and all of the training come together, those kids are having a ball, and they are learning so much. You can see it. You can just see it in their eyes. So thank you, thank you, thank you. What an amazing program. Just an outstanding program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I think most of you know who I am, and for those who don't, my name is Pedro Reyes. My wife, Donnie Jacobs, we are the co-founders of the Circus Arts Conservatory. And just very briefly, I'm from Cape Town, South Africa, and literally the circus gave me a life, because I can truly tell you that I was on the wrong side of the street, and you know what peer pressure is like, and I was just going in the wrong direction. And when I joined at the YMCA, we started the Flying Trapeze School, and eventually it became a circus school. It gave me such an opportunity, a cultural experience traveling around the world, and then to bring it here to Sarasota and to continue that experience for the students here in Sarasota and beyond is truly it's truly joyous. And to see the kids, as Mr. Edwards said, excel. It's what we do, and we're very proud of it. And I think Sarasota as a whole, with us continuing the legacy of the circus that was started here in 1927, I think it's fantastic. Donnie?
I was told to say a little bit about myself. I believe most of you know who I am, but I'll try to be brief. Daughter of the late, great Lou Jacobs, and I hope you remember who he was. I was with Ringling for over 60 years. But I'm also the daughter of the unfortunate, recently late Gene Rockwell Jacobs. And I couldn't talk about myself without mentioning their names, because they made me who I am. But I'm born and raised here in Sarasota, and went to Brentwood, and went to Brookside, and I was part of the Sarasota swim team and YMCA and the incredible Sailor Circus program. My godmother gave me, taught me her Roman ring act, which took me around the world and gave me international recognition. And it gives me great joy to be able now to give back to our community that gave so much to me, and to watch these children prosper. You know, coming up on 25 years ago was our humble beginnings, and we've come so far. And it gives me great joy just to sit back and watch the impact that we're having.
Pedro, when did you say Sailor Circus started? Did you say 1927?
72 years.
1949.
1949, yeah.
1949.
Yeah.
And it started with the program with the school district, and then for whatever reasons, they found that the school district couldn't do it anymore, and PALS, the Police Athletic League, took it over, and they found it was more than what they could do. And thankfully, Dolly and Pedro stepped in to keep the program going, and thank you for that.
Oh, it's a great pleasure, and I'd like to now give it over to Jennifer Mitchell, our COO and Vice President.
Thank you. Thank you to the school board members, and also to our leadership team and Mr. Jones, who's here with us. I know that many of you are familiar with Circus Arts Conservatory. Many of you are familiar with the Circus Arts Conservatory, of course, the heritage of circus here in our community. But if you would just give me the privilege to give you a brief background, and more importantly, really tell you the impact of our work. Since 1997, which is the date of our incorporation, the Circus Arts Conservatory has been training artists and students, delighting audiences young and old, providing humor therapy to seniors, and of course, preserving a very unique heritage here in our community. We are most notably known for presenting world-class professional performances with local economic impact between $8 and $10 million annually, and tourism and consumer dollars brought to the region. And we use our impact to continue a legacy through our children. Our organization has long been recognized for its leadership within the circus industry worldwide. The founders, Dolly and Pedro, are each legends in their own way, having been inducted into the St. Armand Circus Ring of Fame and the Ringling Circus Museum Hall of Fame. Most notably, in 2015, Dolly became the first ever and only circus artist in history to be awarded the National Endowment for the Arts National Heritage Fellowship. It is the highest arts award in the U.S. In the summer of 2017, we partnered with the Smithsonian Institution to present its annual Folklife Festival as the lead presenter of circus arts on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. I believe you're going to see a photo of that now. And over 1 million visitors spectated the circus arts. Students in the Sailor Circus Academy and from Sarasota County School District, our CAC team, and artists from the Southwest Florida region all participated in this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And I want to briefly show you this incredible video that was produced by the Smithsonian and remains in the Smithsonian Library. It's the next slide. I believe it'll play. It's very powerful and also includes some of our students here from the Sarasota School District.
Wonder. That's what this is. It's in our silence, in our noise. Wonder is how, and wonder is why. It's both small and tall, fast and slow. Wonder is in the crowd, and wonder center stage. Wonder has no walls, has no ego or age. Wonder's watching, and wonder's doing. Wonders if high is high enough. If fast is fast enough. Wonder doesn't seek perfection, but always connection.
And that video lives on in the Library of Congress as a document of the Smithsonian Folklife Festival and Sarasota County's participation in that. So for most people, the word circus is obviously synonymous with the greatest show on earth and entertainment. But at CAC, it is synonymous with the greatest teaching tool on earth. Over the last 7 years, we have instructed more than 50,000 students in over 35 elementary, middle, and high schools here in Florida in arts-integrated educational programs that fulfill the Florida state standards in STEAM, something we believe in: science, technology, engineering, arts, theater, physical education, and of course, math. We motivate kids in a different way. We capture their curiosity, their enthusiasm, and imagination. Our in-school programs provide project-based kinesthetic learning experiences for all ages, learning abilities and styles. Circus is a beautiful art form of movement and skill, but it also offers great lessons in physics as well. Utilizing the engineering and artistic achievements of the circus arts, we created a 5th grade science curriculum which demonstrates science, engineering, art, and team problem solving required to produce a contraption-based circus performance. Pre-pandemic, in 2019, we engaged 450 5th grade participants who were assessed in their knowledge of physics and Newton's laws through this curriculum. 93% had a passing score on the post-assessment test. Test scores showed a learning gain of 56%, and our goal was 36%. Now, of course, one of the biggest achievements, I look at Mr. Jones for this, nationwide in circus arts education, happened in August 2019 in partnership with Sarasota High School under the incredible leadership team of David Jones, who's a true visionary, and Michelle Anderson. Together, CAC and SHS developed a 4-year program for students interested in studying the circus arts with unparalleled depth for academic credit as a high school student. The partnership between SHS, CAC, and the Paint Center at USF is like no other. It's the only one in the nation, and it certifies that the circus arts is a tool for educating. Initially, the program focused on physical education courses, of course due in large part to the nature of the skills and disciplines of the circus arts. As students move through the program, other disciplines, such as visual arts, business management, history, and vocational studies are incorporated. With the development of each student, we are seeing a level of professionalism build, giving them the skills and understanding needed after graduation. To truly be competitive in the global economy in any industry, these young professionals will need to be able to juggle more than just clubs. From the SHS Magnet program, students are gaining 21st century skills of understanding collaboration and teamwork, creativity and imagination, critical thinking, and problem solving. In 2020, amidst the pandemic, we also piloted a culturally relevant, culturally inclusive arts-integrated circus curriculum, again in partnership with USF, at Booker Middle School, a feeder program designed to feed into the SHS Magnet program. This innovative new program demonstrates the importance of rethinking school curricula, informing our teachers and students on how to incorporate arts, history, race, circus, and culture to improve the educational environment for all. The amazing Dr. Frost knows that when students add activities such as art, dance, music, performance, athletics, and now circus, to their young academic lives, the resulting impact significantly helps form the foundation for successful adult lives. Booker Middle students take level-appropriate courses in circus movement, mental training, managing injuries in physical theater, aerial awareness, and acrobatics, both at Booker Middle School and at the Sailor Circus Arena. Now that's a little bit of the work that we're doing in your K through 12 schools. Our Sailor Circus Arena is home to the nation's longest running and preeminent youth training program, and the Sailor Circus Arena is our largest tool in educating and training young people in the circus arts. Many of you know in 2018, we completed a $5 million arena renovation project, and we delivered this community and the school district a 30,000 square foot unparalleled space. It is a state-of-the-art educational circus training and performance facility. Circus is the art of possibility. It's an art form in which every age is welcome, diversity and inclusion are actively embraced, and everyone from performer to audience member is inspired to dream and experience awe, as you saw in that earlier video. One of the most significant aspects of the circus arts is that it has no boundaries. The art form itself is a celebration of seeing humans push limitations. In the circus arts, there's no separation of teams by gender or age or physical attribute. How that translates into real-life career skills is exceptional. We don't always get to pick others on our team, those sitting in our college classrooms or in our offices. So learning to work with others and communicate through effective teamwork at a young age is vital for future success. In circus, students literally and figuratively build each other up in acrobatic pyramids using skills that will help them soar in their careers as well. The circus arts is one of the few youth development programs that combine artistry and athleticism and educational opportunity. When I often think of the young students learning to hang by their toes from a rope or a bar swinging 20 feet in the air, they're not only learning the perseverance and commitment it takes to successfully execute a circus skill like this, they are experiencing that anything is possible when you work hard and are open to learning. And of course, when all Sailor Circus students can perform these acts annually in front of audiences of more than 25,000, when we're not in a COVID pandemic, it is empowering. And often, as staff and coaches, the gains in self-esteem and confidence are palpable. So I'd like to take another moment to introduce you to a video. Don't just hear it from me, but listen to the testimonials of our 2021 graduating seniors from the Sailor Circus Academy.
We are the senior class of Sailor Circus 2021.
This year, I'm a lot more grateful to be here than I usually have been in the past because not a lot of circuses around the world can perform right now.
Wearing masks the whole time is definitely a difficult part because when you're out of breath and you're doing physical activity, you really have to work harder to breathe, which is just something that we've never had to do before.
Support each other and be positive, have a good rehearsal tonight.
What's inspired me to come back is all the people that I've met and the amazing coaches.
Sailor Circus has taught me to jump. I leap over the audience head first. I trust my coaches, my rigging, and my training. Circus has taught me to jump into new experiences and try new things. It's given me a sense of confidence, and it shows me who I am when I put my passion and energy into the things I love.
The most important thing that Sailor Circus has taught me is time management. From the 6 hours at school, the 3 hours of homework, and the 5 hours of practice time because of the 4 acts I'm in, I need to be diligent in getting things done on time. This skill is one that I will use for the rest of my life.
My favorite act in the Sailor Circus is the silks because it literally took me so long to get the hang of it, and it just feels really rewarding to see what you've been working on so hard and for so long to finally come to fruition. It's always been something that was really challenging for me, so just getting through a good practice or a good show has always made me feel really confident.
Being in circus has really shaped and molded my life. Before I joined, I used to be so afraid of being the center of attention and being seen by so many people, but circus just really threw me out there, helped me break out of that shell of fear and negativity.
Circus has taught me to shoot for the stars because nothing is impossible if you work hard enough. When I first joined skating, the next spin seemed unattainable. But as I started to practice more, I became more skillful at it, and now it's my favorite trick to perform.
Those students are from Pineview, Sarasota High School, Riverview High School, Venice High School, so they're all districted students that spoke. With the upgrading of our youth circus arena, we completed phase 1 of a planned expansion. Already, the arena is used to capacity, and on most days, we are living up to the idiom of a 3-ring circus. The next phase of our expansion will bring a much-needed enlarged campus, multi-purpose facilities, classrooms, dressing rooms, and competition performance spaces. Both the Booker Middle Magnet and Sarasota High School Magnet programs are the only ones of their kind in the country and can be models for arts education nationally. They're also doubling in enrollment next year, and the interest is just beginning to peak. We've partnered with Sweet Sparkman, architects familiar with the school district, to develop a proposed master plan concept that we will bring to the board and leadership in depth. At the moment, I'd like to show you some preview. Together with the architects, Pedro and I took a trip before the pandemic to Montreal, Canada. Montreal is a circus hub in North America. The city is home to the National Circus School, École de Nationale de Cirque, the premier university of circus arts studies in the world, and many circus companies, including Cirque du Soleil. So I'd like to give you a little bit of insight into what we learned on that trip about the use of space in a variety of circus institutions and facilities that helped form our ideas for planning an international training circus education campus here in Sarasota. And so these will be some glimpses at the master planning concept for our Bay Vista home based on the needs established in our programming. There you can see, and we'll show you the context. We visited and looked at the facilities in Montreal were expansive facilities. They were large. They had many program components similar to what we will need. We looked at multi-purpose spaces, classrooms, and educational spaces to be able to maximize flexibility. Training studios to accommodate the circus arts, which are not your typical classroom, of course. These are spaces that can allow for the work that we do. Fitness and health spaces to continue physical education as a major component in the work we do as circus arts. Of course, to support our programs, administration, and conference spaces on campus. And if any of you have seen our circus shows, you know how much equipment we use. Storage and facilities maintenance will be crucial. I'm sure Jody knows something about that too. We looked as a public organization also at lobby, gathering, and concession areas to be sure we could use those spaces appropriately for events and shows. And so that helped shape some of our thoughts for the facility here in Sarasota and the expansion. There you see a nice aerial view of the arena as it is currently sitting on the Sarasota High School campus. Here you see an artistic rendering of the campus with the arena and, of course, some buildings that would be built on the 2.2 acres that we occupy there. Obviously, these are just renderings. But this is the idea, to add spaces that are an education center, multi-purpose classroom spaces for the expansion of our magnet programs and our after-school programs, administration, storage, multi-purpose spaces, green space, of course, training centers that could be used 7 days a week and would help to augment the international training attraction that we plan. And so the goals would be a 21st century performing arts and education venue, a world-class youth circus arts training campus and facility, a unified campus supporting circus arts education, production, and rehearsal. What an opportunity for collaboration between Ringling College, Sarasota High School, and the Circus Arts Conservatory. Our campus, of course, would honor Sarasota's rich cultural heritage. It would be a practical design, utilizing materials that are easily maintained, and it would make circus a performing art, or would continue to make circus a performing art that attracts international students here to Sarasota. Now, here's another artistic rendering of our plans. What has emerged against a backdrop of an evolving and growing circus arts industry is both the realization that the circus industry needs leadership in America and the realization that circus arts are a rich tool for education and even social good. Our future in the circus arts is aimed at changing the general perception that circus is merely entertainment. Before the pandemic, circus was flourishing around the world, with leadership centers from Australia to Monte Carlo, Canada to Holland, and throughout Europe. But incredibly, there is no circus arts education center here in America. The CAC, headquartered here in Sarasota, in your school district and in partnership with you, is more than just a nod to the Ringling Brothers circus legacy. We are uniquely positioned to be the epicenter of circus in America. CAC programs attract students from circus schools across the country and combine non-traditional educational tools that work with opportunities for professional training, competition, and performance. Our vision is not only to support the evolution of circus arts, but to take a leadership role in America and worldwide. Our vision is to continue to elevate the circus as a recognized art form on tier with all other performing arts. Completion of the master plan will make the vision of an international circus institution here in the United States a reality. And so later this summer, working both with Dr. Asplin and Jody, you will see a proposed request for an extension of our current lease to a 99-year lease and an official presentation and approval, a request of approval for our master plan concept. Thank you.
Just a couple words about this. Being principal of Sarasota High School, which is an 85-acre campus, you might be wondering, how does all this fit in? You just looked at your 5-year budget, and I would challenge you to find one penny that is out of our budget for all these phenomenal projects. Now, we are blessed in Sarasota County to have such wonderful partnerships with so many places. Sarasota High School is no exception. This partnership is beyond wonderful. It is the greatest partnership I can articulate. And let me tell you what delineates that. Partnerships always have a reciprocal benefit for one another. Not only do we get the opportunity for my kids to be rehearsing every single day, getting their training in a multi-million-dollar facility, but they're also having the opportunity to interact with so many others. Now, the outreach you've just heard articulated, it is so much beyond even Sarasota High School. It is a blessing to the entire community. Our current mayor wants to get us back on the map as a circus town. This is such a prime opportunity for that. But again, going back, we're not asking for anything that impacts the budget adversely. This is an upgrade to our campus, and it's one that has precedent. We all know that Sarasota Art Museum, because of that partnership and giving them that 99-year lease, has brought us a beautiful multi-million-dollar restoration of that. We're simply asking for the same thing, that 99-year lease, so that they can have the assurance that we can build these great facilities, continue the legacy of the circus, and bring great things that they've already brought. I can't tell you how much I love these three people that are sitting here. Our relationship has grown so much over the last 3 or 4 years as this whole vision has unfolded. And this is with complete peace of mind that I can willingly say, by all means, let's lease the acreage to them. Let's let them have that peace of mind for those 99 years. So thank you.
So, David, how do you feel about this?
I know. My middle name is subtle.
You know, I attended the event up in D.C., and I was sitting next to a gentleman who actually cried during the performance of our students because he had just been to the closing show of the Ringling. And he said seeing these kids gave him hope that the circus was still alive, because he thought the circus was going to disappear with Ringling. And he teared up over it. You are taking Sailor Circus farther than we ever would have thought it would go, and how you're using that property and squeezing so much onto it is amazing. And I know that $5 million renovation, you did not come to us for any of that. You raised that, and I know it wasn't $1 million you got from the state. Yes. I think we'd like to help you there if you go to the state, you know, perhaps PICO dollars or cultural institution dollars and whatnot. And perhaps even we could nudge our lobbyists to help you get those too, to find those areas to help, because, you know, it's going to be, I'm sure, an expensive project, but it'll add so much to our students. You've got a $3.5 million annual budget that, again, you do without the help of the school district. It's amazing what you've done, and how you took that building and put it in the air and did all that, but how your plan brings it more in line with the look of what Sarasota High looks like. You're bringing these buildings together. I mean, visually, it's, well,
There's an opportunity for a real amazing corridor there, and David and I have talked about that extensively, between the Ringling College, the beauty of Sarasota High School's campus, and now the potential of Circus Arts Conservatory's master plan. And I think that could be a real jewel for the district and our community.
Amazing. We have some others that want to talk. Bridget?
I'll be brief. I think it was an amazing presentation. I am very excited to see that moving forward. I think the combination between the partnership, the innovation on the magnet program that I think is amazing. But I'm going to use amazing a lot. I think it's wonderful, and I'm excited to see it. I think it's such a jewel to our community. I love the historical aspect, that there's just the history of Sarasota, and I love the components that you bring in educationally and the arts. So I'm looking forward to it. But thank you again for the presentation.
One thing I meant, when you spent the money, you raised the money, but one of the issues on raising the money is if you don't own the building, people don't want to give you the money to refurbish it. So they want to, just like what we found at the old Sarasota High building. They needed, the people who were contributing wanted to know that this building was going to be there. And I think you and I aren't going to be living another 99 years. We want to make sure that there's going to be somebody that's going to come in and follow us too.
I work in the circus. Everything's possible.
Karen?
Thank you. I just wanted to say incredibly impressive, and what stands out to me, how student-focused you are. That's so extraordinarily important, and as well as enriching and reflecting Sarasota. Thank you for all of you for everything that you've done, and absolutely genius to embed it as a magnet program. Very fortunate for our students. Thank you.
Jane?
7 years, you've touched 50,000 students. That says it all to me. And no one has a program like this. I mean, I probably need to get one of these videos and show it to a conference that I'm attending in Tampa for, people from all over the state next month. But nobody has this program, and nobody has this opportunity for students. And it is STEAM. It is STEAM in action. And so I'm very supportive. I thank you all for everything you've done, because when you first started phase one, I went into a performance in that building and I thought I was going to roast. It was so hot. And it was, I don't know what month it was. I kept moving up and I should have been moving down in the stands, so that didn't work very well. But the opportunities and what you've done in such a short period of time has been amazing. So I'm very supportive. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, that conference is the last 2 days of school, and I think we might be able to convince a student to spend their second to their last day up in Tampa giving us a demonstration. We'll see what we can do. Thank you so much, and I'm glad, our new board members have got to see and hear what you've got to do and why you're doing it. And can't thank you all enough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the support and the partnership.
Next on our agenda is mental health update. Dr. Asplin, you want to introduce the presenters?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Our next presenter is Deb Jackalone, and she will be presenting our mental health information today. I believe we also have Tom Knight, and I'll let Deb introduce everyone.
You guys come up here with us. Yeah, you're part of the team. I think Chrissy, you be there, and then Tom and Tracy.
Well, Deborah, if you've multiplied.
Is that on now? Okay, yeah, you guys know I have trouble with this mic. I never know if it's on or if I got it going. Before we get started, I wanted to thank you all so much for allowing us to come back and to share some additional updates with you all with regard to mental health, where we are in Sarasota, and where we would really appreciate your support. With me, I have Mandy Coker. You guys may know her. She's been in the district a really long time. We got her from Taylor Ranch to the district office, but she has been spearheading our mental health and social emotional learning initiative this year. And then we have Christy Skoglund, who is going to talk to you a little bit about the Florida Center. She oversees our therapist in our school-based programs for the Florida Center. And then we have Tom Knight and Tracy Whedon from First Step of Sarasota, and they really work hard to support our SAP specialists and our mental health therapists at the middle schools and high schools.
I did notice Tom without the green.
Yeah, oh, there it is. So we actually want to start the meeting with a little video. And this month and this timing of this workshop is really important to us. Do you guys know why this timing is so perfect that we're talking about mental health in May? Yay! And you're in green, so that's good. Oh, good job, good job. So yes, it is Mental Health Awareness Month, and during this month, our Student Support Services team has a particular focus on making sure we're reducing the stigma, that we're continuing to talk about mental health and the importance of it, and that we are really working hard to connect our students to supports and services that they need in order to be successful. So since we left you last, Mandy and I have made it our mission to talk to as many people as possible about mental health. We've talked to some of you, we've talked to lots of parents, we've talked to teachers, we've talked to students, we've talked with our community partners, and what we found is people have a lot to say. But more important than having a lot to say is the fact that they want to be heard. A few weeks ago, we were at Northport High School, and we had the opportunity to engage with some really amazing students. These kids were passionate about mental health. They were vocal, and they wanted to help spread the message of why mental health is important to us. So we are going to thank Mr. Johnson at Northport High School, the entire administrative team, but most importantly, these 5 students that helped us put together this 1:30 video that we'd like you guys to see first. Do I need to do anything? Okay. I don't need to push play or anything.
More than 40 million people in the U.S. face the day-to-day realities of living with mental health conditions. And now more than ever, in these uncertain times, it is important for the mental health movement to come together.
May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
We would like to take this time to focus on the healing value of connecting in safe ways, prioritizing mental health, and acknowledging that it's okay not to be okay.
Half of mental illness shows early signs before anyone turns the age of 14.
You are not alone.
9.7% of youth in the U.S. have severe major depression.
You are not alone.
Anxiety affects 285 million people. You are not alone.
Depression affects 264 million people.
You are not alone.
Alcohol use disorder affects 107 million people. You are not alone.
Bipolar disorders affect 16 million people.
You are not alone.
Eating disorders affect 60 million. You are not alone. Although it is scary to reach out, people can.
If you need to talk to someone, please see a school counselor.
Or another trusted adult on campus.
The crisis hotline is also available by texting HERE FOR YOU to 741-741.
We are here for you. We are here to help. You are not alone.
So I think their message was really powerful when we think about mental health. The message that we want to convey is that you are not alone, and it is perfectly integrated into this year's theme. So I want to just start our PowerPoint with just a few reminders of why we're here today. The very first slide is so important to me because it really reminds me of our students. No 2 students in Sarasota County are the same, and no 2 students need exactly the same thing in order to be successful.
So in Sarasota County, mental health in schools is based on the following key components. We have prevention.
Speak up, please.
Is that better? Okay. We have prevention, we have intervention, and we have treatment. And the services are delivered along a continuum of care within a multi-tiered system of supports. Our most comprehensive supports are designed for every student. They are delivered with the intent to promote and improve well-being and improve social emotional learning while also preventing mental health crises from escalating. In Sarasota County, we have a solid PBIS framework in every one of our schools, and every school's PBIS plan is on our district dashboard. We infuse a civility squad to promote positive character traits and use restorative strategies to build relationships and create a community of belonging. When we notice that a student is struggling or may need a little bit more, we intervene with strategies to help build a skill set. So we do things like daily check-ins, engaging students in targeted small groups, and providing social skills instruction. Students that require intensive treatment are referred to a mental health support provider. These services are individualized to the need of that student. Some of these supports include therapy with a mental health clinician, the initiation of an individualized safety plan, and the services of First Steps Mobile Response Team.
This may be my favorite or most powerful slide in this entire presentation. Much of our work is so dependent on our community stakeholders. I like to refer to them as providers, as partners. These are the people that rally around us and make sure that the services that we are able to provide to students are comprehensive in nature. So at this time, I know I've shared this slide before, but I really want to say thank you and recognize our foundations and our community partners who help make us successful in what we do to support students and families with their mental health needs. So thank you to the Charles and Marjorie Bransick Foundation, the Community Foundation of Sarasota, the Gulf Coast Community Foundation, the Patterson Foundation, the Florida Center, First Step of Sarasota.
Thank you to Faces of Accomplishment, Centerstone, 40 Carrots Family Center, Girls Inc., Girls on the Run Greater Tampa Bay, NAMI, Teen Court, Big Brothers Big Sisters,
Camelot Community Care, the Jewish Family Children's Services, our Circuit 12 Educational Interagency Agreement, Pieces of Dream, Sarasota Housing Authority, Sarasota YMCA, Take Stock in Children, and United Way.
Bay Area Youth, Brotherhood of Men Mentoring Group, Boys and Girls Club, Schoolhouse Link, Homeless Education, Valerie's House, Tidewell Hospice, and the Crisis Text Line. You may notice there is one blank block at the end there, and that's because we're always looking for new partners and ways to enhance supports for our students and staff.
So you guys probably remember seeing a slide similar to this in a previous presentation that we shared with you all. I just want to reiterate that right now, in this critical time in our country, mental health is at the forefront of many of our discussions, and it very well should be. We know that 1 in 5 youth and adolescents experience a mental health crisis during their school years. We also know that up to 60% of those students do not get the services that they need, and there's 2 main reasons: the stigma attached to mental health and the lack of availability and access to the services that are necessary. The good news is that the students that do get help, 2/3 of them are getting the help that they need in our schools. So what have we been up to since we last talked? Well, here's some great updates to share with you all. Since we last talked, we've had 130 calls to our mobile response team. Out of those 130 calls that we've made, we have been able to successfully divert and de-escalate possible Baker Acts for 120 students. That is huge. The impact of a Baker Act is extremely traumatic, as you all know, so we are super proud of that partnership and the work that we've been able to do to support our students. We currently have over 700 of our students receiving support from our Student Assistant Program Specialists that are in all of our high schools and one of our middle schools. We have over 350 of our students receiving counseling as a related service with our own providers, our counselors, our social workers, our school psychologists. We currently have 37 therapists combined from the Florida Center and First Step who have served over 600 students this year. And currently we have more than 1,000 students engaged in some form of counseling or mental health therapy across the district. So the big question is that has been on your mind and on my mind. We're doing so many great things. How can we continue to do more, and what do we need the school board to help us with? So I prepared a list of some things that we are hoping that we have your support on as we move forward. We believe that these requests or these needs will help fill in some gaps and allow us to really provide comprehensive services to our students. Our first request is to consider hiring 3 program managers. Program managers would be responsible for providing high quality professional development for all of our stakeholders so we can continue to increase the direct support services that our experts are able to provide to students in the classrooms. We're also hoping that if we could designate these program specialists to program managers to a geographical area within the county, each of our school leaders would have a direct point of contact, so we could have a proactive and positive response to crisis requests that come up. We're also really hoping to have a mental health therapist in each one of our middle schools. It is extremely important to us to have a continuum of care that expands from elementary to middle school. So when a student's transitioning from 5th grade to 6th grade, there is no lack of services. We would love to have a mental health therapist in each of our 5 comprehensive high schools. You all know the size of our comprehensive high schools, and having a therapist on site would allow access for our students to participate in the mental health services that they need in order to help them be academically successful.
What about at Pineview? I would think that with the pressures that they're at, I mean, wouldn't we need one at Pineview also?
We currently have what they call a SAP specialist at Pineview,
Okay.
and that person really connects those students to supports and services. What we found with our Pineview students is many of those families have access to mental health therapists outside in the community that they choose to engage with, so that in-school support of a SAP specialist has been most effective at Pineview.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. And then we hope, as always, to continue to increase our community support with our partners, such as the Florida Center and First Step and others throughout the community. We're always looking for new ways to increase the services and to improve on the service delivery of what we can offer to students and families. So I've said a whole lot there. I really, really want to have Christy Skoglund, who has been with us since the very beginning with the Florida Center, share a little bit of the story of where you started, what's been happening, and where we're hoping to go. So, Christy?
Guess not. Okay. All right. Thanks for having me here to share. So the Florida Center services young children birth through elementary school. So we're delighted that we're able to extend our work into the district. Back in I want to say it was maybe 16, 17, somewhere in that ballpark. We started with one position at Alta Vista Elementary School. Dr. Barbara Shirley reached out and said, we've got some need here. And so we answered the call and went out there, and we had a full-time position on the campus. Community Foundation found out what was going on and was like, wow, we want to pilot another school. So they piloted Goshio. And so at that point, we had 2 schools. And then I believe it was the following year that Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act took place. And we were that unfortunate incident resulted in dollars that were allocated to our district schools. And the Florida Center then had, I want to say it was around 10 or 11 schools at that point that we were asked to hire fast, like quickly, to get into those schools I think we had this conversation over summer and we wanted them hired by August. So that's kind of how it started. And then I believe First Step came on board at that time as well to be able to provide some work in the middle and high schools. The Florida Center is, as of now, we have 29 clinicians I believe we're in every elementary school in our district. And some schools actually have more than one clinician. And those schools, we found that the clinicians are more successful. These are very, as Mandy mentioned, there's tiers. We come in at tier 3 and we begin working with those children and families to provide more intense services that level 1 and tier 1 and 2 have just been not as successful. So we come in and do a lot of the deep end work, engaging the family a little more because we have the time and the resources to do that, where the district's here to educate our students. And so we're able to go into the field, meet the family, engage the family a little more, find out what's going on behind the scenes and see what's happening here. Just dig into that background a little more. And support the teachers as well, and provide on-site education, workshops, those kinds of things, and supporting the teachers in the classroom and also the support staff. So Oftentimes, this is one person doing all of this, so it's a really big job. And they work for us, and they also are in the schools. So they are often split between like the duties for the organization and the duties for the school, and trying to figure it all out. And they're again referred the top, the kiddos at the high end where we're needing a lot more intervention. So we are hoping that at some point we're able to get, two clinicians in every elementary school, because we're finding that the schools that have that kind of team approach, there's a lot less stress. It doesn't feel like everything is on the one clinician, and we know that they're also able to provide more services. And when we're able to provide more services, children and faculty are successful, and kids are less stressed, and the teachers are less stressed. So that's where we hope to get to and continue the good work in partnership with the school district. Did I leave anything out?
Yeah. Thanks, Christy. And Mr. Knight and Ms. Whedon, you guys take it away with your part.
Well, I'll start. Thanks, Deb. First, I want to introduce Tracy Whedon. She's the brains of the operation right now with me. She is our residential and outpatient coordinator for First Step. And I'm proud to be here. Mr. Edwards, I want to thank you for reaching out to me and reading our behavioral health response team program that I've submitted to the Board of County Commissioners for funding. So we'll talk a little bit about that, how it impacts your school district and the collaboration it is with the mobile response team that we took over somewhat back in December, Tracy, was it? When Jewish and Family Children Services, that money was received by First Step to provide those services. So we're glad to be here. Real quickly, with the amount of people in the school-based services we have, the student assistant program, along with the peer-to-peer program, the mental health-based services, I got to tell you, when I took over at First Step, I was just amazed at how advanced your district is and what you guys are doing. So with the student assistant program, the first year of the pilot program was 757 referrals. The second year, we received 987 referrals. In the first quarter of this year, we received 505 referrals just in the student assistance program itself. So it shows that the program is working for what you designed it to be, in the collaboration of First Step and the funding opportunities that were there. So it's been good. The cool part about it right now is we've seen the evolution of our behavioral health response. And when I took over and came from law enforcement, my goal of being at First Step was to reduce the interactions of law enforcement with citizens and students. And coming on board and seeing the MERT team work, and then creating a behavioral health response team that Mr. Edwards, that you read that program, has worked out really, really good at that. It's given us continuous services and a continuum of care on your campuses, so that the people that you have employed by the school district, along with the SAP programs, the peer-to-peer programs, everything, is identifying those students who may be unknowingly or in some type of crisis. Maybe their families don't know they're in some type of crisis, that they're not being able to learn properly, but that if that contact is made and they're in that crisis, is that our behavioral health response team has been able to respond to that in person as a clinician to the campus, and that during the pilot program that we've operated at, we've seen a significant decrease, not just amongst law enforcement's contacts out in the field, but here at the schools. You heard earlier Deb say, up to date of what we give you today, 170 times our clinicians have been contacted in rows on your campuses, and we've seen I got my glass, I apologize. We've seen a 80% reduction in the amount of involuntary crisis bake racks taken by the students. And the cool part about that is being able to get on the campuses and having this program in place. And it is a pilot program, it's very small. Tracy likes to say we're small, but we're mighty. But we're looking to expand that program with this behavioral health response team program request for funding I put in, and Mr. Edwards read, is that our opportunity to bring that, not just out in the citizens, to bring it more onto your campuses and provide that service. It gives that continuum of care where we can go back out with the families and help them up with a safety plan, and to make sure that that care is done, so when they come on your campuses, they're able to learn in a better learning environment. So we're proud of that, along with all the AIR programs we have going on that Deb and them talked to you about, with the SAP, the peer-to-peer that Todd Shapiro does here and handles for us, the mental health-based services program. But we're really excited about the opportunity that if this full program is put together and pushed out by the county, you will benefit from that, and that we will expand those services, and we will have more opportunities to go on more campuses, not just with 2 people, or you can imagine with just 2 in the size of your school district, the times that they could arrive on your campuses and provide that help and assistance, that we can give those wraparound services with all the AIR services we have at First Step. to go out with that continuum of care to help these kids out and their families, but the opportunities we have just to arrive on campuses. We'd really like to be available more South County, Venice and Northport, to be able to provide that assistance more. But with just the 2 right now, we're getting started, but we see good things for the future. And just to identify a little bit, I don't know if you're aware, the mobile response team and the behavioral health response team that we created are one and the same. They're providing the same type of service. The mobile response team, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tracy, it was really a funding source that was provided as a result of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act. And that another nonprofit was operating it, but we had more resources, so Central Florida provided that funding to us. We wrapped that all together with a behavioral health response team that's being piloted by us in conjunction with the Gulf Coast Community Foundation and Brunswick Foundation to provide additional, more necessary services. If that goes, you're going to benefit directly and huge from that as operations, because we will be able to have more people to send to your campuses and provide more opportunities. So that's my 50,000-foot level. Tracy understands it much better than I. Do you have anything you want to add to this? Anything you want to talk to them about continuum of care and the things that we're doing out in the field?
Yes, thanks, Tom. So good to be here and meet you all. And so I like to I know stories are helpful, because when you hear all of this information, it's hard to sort of visualize how the continuum of care indeed works. And so our student assistant programs, we're working with the students in the mental health therapist at the schools to provide mental health first aid training. And that's basically a training where students learn how to help each other, how to help themselves, how to recognize symptoms of suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation risk, and tell someone. And whether that's the guidance counselor or the therapist or a friend, someone knows, so help can be provided. And so the best way I can explain bringing all of these programs together and the need to enhance them is we did have a student who had the courage enough, after being trained in mental health first aid, to tell her teacher that another student was self-harming, and was not feeling good and not doing well. And so that teacher notified the counselor at the school, who then notified the mobile response team. So we were able to go out, provide a de-escalation intervention, and get the youth and the youth's family and the other students, her friends, who were afraid, right? What do you do with that information at 12 or 13 years old? Some help. And it was really I will never forget that story, because it truly demonstrated the wraparound, the care, our community, our systems truly working together in tandem to help our children and their families, so that our teachers can teach and teach to students who are well and able to learn. And so I just can't say enough about the benefits of having these services, but also expanding them. That's just one example. Imagine what our community would be like, how healthy our communities would be if all of our students and their families had that resource to know what needing help looks like, being able to ask for it, but also get it in a very comprehensive way. That's, I think, the best way I could describe it.
I think, Tracy, that one story we talked about, that doesn't rise to the level where your SRO has to intervene. It doesn't get there. Where the things you put on your campuses with SAP and all their programs that are on the campuses, it allows the right people to intervene with somebody going into crisis on the campus, and then us and our clinicians to go to the campuses, so you don't have that interaction at a different level and that crisis where somebody could potentially rise the level of a Baker Act. Because that's the last thing you want on a child who's 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, is that additional drama or trauma of going into it. So part of the programs that we've set up is doing everything we can do with the people on the campuses to identify it early, get our clinicians to the campuses, and help set up that care. And the anecdotal stories, there's many of them now. I shouldn't say that many, but it's working. It's such a small level, with really just what, Tracy, 2 full-time, and they're like extended out. Yeah. And then right now, under this pilot program of the behavioral health response team, and maybe you want that, I'd be more than happy to send an email, drop it off to you. Or Mr. Edwards has, I think that you can read it, is that these 2 people are also out working with law enforcement because we're trying to reduce the interaction of law enforcement with people in mental health crisis. That was part of the impetus of creating this program with the hopes it gets funded in the future by the county. But certainly, having those individuals, the clinicians come, better than I understand it, but to be able to come to your campuses and do that intervention and de-escalate it and not rise to a level that we've seen happen in the past, that's the main goal here. And that's what I believe is going to be huge for the future of us working together in the intervention with your students on your camp as your schools grow.
Thank you.
You've done cool stuff.
Tom?
I'm going to try and talk fast. I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. Deb, I know I've driven you and Dr. Asplin crazy as it relates to discussions about mental health. What's dramatic about what we're talking about is right before here we had this capital improvement, and we're talking about multi-millions of dollars that are necessary and available and needed to get all of these things done. And what is tragic is that we didn't really have funding from the state until the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas tragedy. And that dollar amount is $1.5 million. And when you think about how do you spend $1.5 million on 43,000 students, don't talk about the employees yet, but talk about how do you do that? And you do that by that amazing slide that you put together for us, Deb, of all of the partnerships, all of the folks that are sitting here today. And yet, as astounding as those results are, the reduction in Baker Acts that makes you feel so good, doesn't it? That you hear that 60% of our students don't get what they need. And 60% of 43,000 students is a lot of students. That's a lot. And we're still not talking about our employees yet. So when I sat down with Mr. Knight and Mr. Asplin, and we talked about, where can we go from here? We've got a long way to go from here. And that's the point of wanting to really discuss it and bring the highlight of the dollars and cents. And I don't want to use the word crisis, but when you talk about the dollars and cents from the building, which is so completely necessary to educate our students, and then what really is little available, and how does that circle back to our achievement gap? I mean, that's got to be one of the crux of our issues, is how can students learn if they're not feeling well, if they're not doing well, if they're in trauma with their family? How can they learn? So I appreciate you all being here, and I want to extend to Mr. Knight the conversation about just reaching out to our county commissioners. They have a very serious vote in front of them. And I was really just hoping that in our conversation today, highlighting what's really at hand for our public and our students, enhancing this program with First Step, enhancing all of our foundations who are so generous with us to do what we can. But we need that little extra help. And that's really what I wanted to show today, was an opportunity to just think about how important mental health is to our young people and to our community. So I'm done.
Thank you.
Off the block.
Karen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to extend appreciation to the foundations and to all of our partnerships with Sarasota organizations, particularly the Florida Center and First Step. I think that makes Sarasota County an anomaly and extraordinarily unique, and lays a platform for us to do some spectacular things for our students in this community. I'm looking for clarification, Mrs. Jackalone, on the one slide where I understand the 3 program managers that you are saying will enhance your means to these goals, but when we look at the mental health therapists, at each middle school and each high school, and the community supports, and my understanding that all of those are pieces that would, when you say you're looking for our support with those pieces, are those encompassed within what Mr. Knight is referencing with funds from the county commission and their project, or could you just clarify how we support those means outside of the request for funds?
Whoops, sorry, this is something in addition to what Mr. Knight is talking about. We want to make sure that with the money that we get from our mental health allocation and other funding sources, that we're dedicating the supports that our middle schools and high schools need. This is our year one plan. This is like if we could have something in place to help us next year support our students better. We know we have to get in our high schools, and we know that we have to avoid a split at our middle schools. Whenever you split a clinician, you always are at the wrong school on the wrong day. Nothing ever works out. So we want to have that stable person there in order to provide support. What Mr. Knight's program would be able to do is our mobile response team, since it has become part of First Step, they are extremely responsive. And what they do is when our counselors or our social workers or our school psychologists are working with a student who is experiencing suicidal ideation, self-harm, and they are at a point where it's becoming a moderate risk, that it's looking like this may end up in a Baker Act, they're able to call the mobile response team in, and that trained clinician is able to de-escalate a situation, and if they're successful, they immediately engage students in a counseling service, and then they automatically wrap around the family into that. So if that program is funded further, Tom and Tracy are supportive of having more of those supports in place for our students. So that's another layer to the clinicians that would already be on campus.
So are you looking for additional funding for next year to support these pieces, or is that funding in place?
We're working through it right now, waiting to see what we get from Tallahassee in terms of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas funds and mental health allocation. Mr. Edwards said we had $1.5 million. We have not received what our allocation is for next school year. Our goal is to accomplish this using those funds.
So at some point, we'll have a deeper understanding of what you're saying.
Yes, as soon as
how we would accomplish supporting these. I'm really focusing in on the in-school, directly with student pieces, and clarification from our finance department on what funds come in, because I think that's an important piece. I think the things that you're asking for that are directly in front of students in our schools are a priority for me, and I would like updates on how that funding impacts accomplishing those goals.
Yes, thank you so much for your support, and I know Mitzi is waiting as anxiously as we are to get that receipt award from the state, so thank you, and we promise to always keep you guys up to date.
Jane?
Yes, I want to thank you, Deb, for all you're doing in this new org chart and so forth. I think this is a really great opportunity for you and for our students to have an alignment that makes great sense. Thank you to the Florida Center. Thank you for First Step and for all of our other foundations and partnerships. My question is, we have this 1 year money. Hopefully we won't have to apply for all of it. Some of it will trickle and flow to us. Are we going to spend some of this additional money that we'll be receiving from the federal government on some of these ideas and options for hopefully helping some of those students in need right now? And specifically the behavioral therapists that we have been short on in elementary school. We have kids that, have bad behavior. Particularly, we have kindergarten teachers who are very concerned with their safety with some of these students. And we have those behavioral specialists that were in short supply. Are we doing something about that?
I think, do you want to answer that, Dr. Asplin?
Yes, as far as behavior specialists are concerned and interventionists that are needed at some of our schools, especially our elementary schools, I know that's a conversation that I was having with Mitzi just recently, as far as looking at, what money we have in our CARES money help us kind of fill that gap, fill those needs. Right now, I know our principals, in talking with them, they feel very strongly that behavior specialists would be very, very helpful. I know that one of the things that we're talking with the principals about and the assistant principals about is having an assistant principal who is in charge of their ESE developments at their school to make sure everything is being taken care of. And one of the things that will help that is having a behavior specialist on duty at the school site. That would alleviate some of the things that the assistant principals do, so they can hone in on some of those other areas, including ESE. So just trying to find the money that we have in the CARES money, find the money we have in Deb's money that she was talking about, the 1.5, and then spreading that out to our schools, especially our elementary schools, to make that happen, which will also, like I said, help us in other areas as well. So.
Dr. Asplin, then are you saying we are going to be trying to fund these 3 program managers and the mental health therapists at each middle and high school also?
Yes.
Are we looking at putting that into our budget?
The 3 program managers, we were able to access a grant for those 3 program managers. And so that's our plan for those. And as Deb said, that 1.5, when that does come in and we allocate that out properly, that will help us with these. In middle school, Deb, as far as mental health therapists are concerned in middle school and high school, right now we have what?
So what we have right now, all of our middle schools have one dedicated person to them. Venice Middle and Woodland Middle split a therapist, and Oak Park does not have a mental health therapist for their middle school. So we're looking to add 2 more at the middle school level to, 1, alleviate the split at Venice and Woodland, and then 2, where our kids that are in crisis and they're transitioning from 5th grade to 6th grade and then 6th, 7th, and 8th at Oak Park have that support necessary. Currently, our high schools do not have any in there, so we're looking with a hopeful eye that we can add 5, 1 at each one of our high schools.
That's right.
Bridget?
Thank you, Jane and Shirley. Appreciate your words, and Karen.
Thank you for this. This is a topic very near and dear to my heart, and I appreciate all the work, and I appreciate you actually highlighting, for example, some of the most extreme, and there's a lot of nuances inside there, but with it comes to Baker acting and seeing that transition. My question is, because we have such the great, fortunate opportunity to work with so many nonprofit partners, and I believe so strongly that a lot of this is awareness about breaking the stigma, because there's just so much misunderstanding. And I think we've made significant strides as a community, but at the same time, you're seeing the growth in demand almost outweigh the awareness, so the need is higher. I have here, I know that we do parent university trainings, and so one of my questions is, just like you had mentioned, that there's a first aid training for students on what to do, how to cite, how to be aware. Do we have an organization that currently we partner with from the, one of our nonprofits that put any kind of awareness campaign? Like, I'm familiar with NAMI and what they do, but in my mind, this is a multi-prong approach. And so certainly we are talking about what's happening inside of our schools, because there's an opportunity. Sorry, my mask will not fit my face today. But at the same time, I think of myself as someone who I'm more familiar with it just because of the nature of what I've experienced in my life and family, et cetera. Sorry, I'm really struggling with this mask. However, I think that there are some that may not be, and so they don't understand, and they may only see what they read on social media, God forbid, which is another area which I think exacerbates the issue, but that's another topic for another day. So I guess in short or long, my question is there something or some organization or one of you that work through that so that we can channel that out to our families? Because if they have some better understanding of what signs to look for, whether it's their own child or any of their children's friends, I just think that boosts our ability to have a stronger partnership and a stronger success. So can you highlight some information on that? Or if we don't have it, can we start looking for it so we can champion that?
Yeah, I'm so super excited that you asked that, because we do youth mental health first aid. I think some of you actually took that course. I know Jane did. She was with us when we took it. So all of our staff members engage in youth mental health first aid. Our teens are engaging in teen mental health first aid at Northport High School and Sarasota High School. But for community members and parents, they have a training called mental health first aid. and it is available. I love your idea. Mandy and I were kind of smiling at each other underneath these masks because that is one of our goals. We know how important parents are as partners, and as we move forward next year, we want to offer mental health first aid training for our parents, either at school sites, working through the PTOs or with the school principals, or actually do a parent university on a Saturday and have parents come and engage in this. Tom, I saw you raising your hand, so I don't know if I cut you off or you wanted to say something. Okay.
I would love to be a part of that discussion and however I can. I know we've talked about it from an ESC standpoint.
100%.
I just think if we can get awareness out there, when you're in it, it's so traumatic and challenging that it's the last time, a moment when you want to be learning what to be looking for. So anything we can do to help make that, I think it's going to really help turn the tide at the same time. So
We love it. We're so happy to hear you say that because our goal is to move to a sense of proactivity and limit our reactivity.
Amen.
So thank you.
Yeah, I want to echo that. I think some more of this mental health training, I wasn't able to take care of it the last time, but the next time I really would, and I think to be offering it for our parents at our schools would be a great thing.
Yep.
And I
Thank
am
you.
so happy to hear we are reducing Baker Acts. I know they've been trying to do it in the state also. But as a former owner of a collection agency, I was appalled to learn that in addition to the emotional impact and trauma of somebody having to deal with being Baker Acted, if we Baker Act a student, their parents have to pay the bill. And they're not cheap. And most insurances don't cover it.
Yep.
And that just, I mean, a lot of times mental health problems are tied to financial problems, so I'm just so glad, and thank you for reducing Baker Acts. I'm sorry, is your mic on?
Sorry, I'm usually loud enough. If the program we submitted for funding, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge for the district. It's going to be huge for our community. That's it. Mr. Edwards has it. It's cheap. It's not $174,000 we're asking for. It's being piloted by Gulf Coast and Brunswick. You're benefiting now. If it goes, it's going to be huge. And everything that you want to do and the community wants to do can build off of it collaboratively.
Well,
so that's our goal. But to reduce those bigger, especially like you're saying, Ms. Brown, the children, let's be honest. I did it for 34 years. And when whether a cop shows up to take somebody to jail or to put somebody in handcuffs and take them to crisis, the trauma is never relieved. And so our goal for you guys is not to do it, is to relieve your school police from having to do it. And if we can get this going, it's going to be huge.
Well,
we don't want to see those kids. You don't want to see them. We want to see them. I said it backwards. Sorry about that. We want to see them, not you.
My advice to the county commission, support this. Yes, we need funding, but I would say they need to be bold in the funding, because it's not just some people, keeping them from Baker Act and this and that, but I know we don't have the funding for children who have been sexually abused, or families that are in abusive situations, families that have to deal with a murder in their family. I mean, there is just so many other needs of trauma that we need to be addressing in addition to, because that's a mental health problem too, is trauma. So there's just so many, and so I would, ask the county commission to be bold in when they're asking, because we know what 1 mil brings in. I know what a $0.25 mil brings in. Somewhere maybe a half or a full mil. Our community needs this, and I would caution them not to underbid it. But I don't think we could even ever overbid, because I think there's definitely the need out there for it. So I really, really, really support that. And I'm just so proud that you're out there spearheading it. Thank you, and for partnering with us. Karen?
Yes, I just have one more question, just briefly. Mrs. Jackalone, Dr. Asplin referenced 3, or perhaps Dr. Asplin wants to answer it, the 3 managers that you're asking for. I haven't heard of the grant. If I could just get a brief on what the grant is and its duration.
Yep, so you probably know about it. It's called our Access Grant. It's Improving Climate and Culture in Sarasota County Schools. And it was a federal grant that several of the People Support Services team wrote. It was a US DOE grant, and we were awarded $750,000 a year for 5 years. And so we're hoping to fund those program managers using those funds.
So was it exclusively for administration, that grant, or for any services under the umbrella of mental health?
It is specifically for improving climate and culture in schools through a multi-tiered system of support.
Thank you.
You got it.
I see no more questions or comments. Thank you for all you do and for your wonderful presentation. Did you have any more comments you needed to make? Nope. All right.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. We appreciate you all so much.
The next item on our agenda is the referendum. And Jane, are you going to handle that, or Brennan?
Jane was going to talk.
I was going to say, Dr. Asplin, do you want to crank it up, and then I'll take over?
So we wanted to place this on the agenda just to discuss the referendum. As you know, it's right around the corner, basically a year away, and we wanted to start talking about how we will get ready for the referendum. And we have 1 year to do it, as I said. We have to talk about the committee. What is the committee going to look like? How we are going to communicate this? How are we going to set this up? We have to talk with the supervisor of elections and so on and so forth. And so we need to get the ball rolling on this. And I know that Ms. Goodwin and I believe Mr. DeLeo worked on this during the last referendum. And so I'd like to turn it over to Jane at this time.
Well, it's been actually 20 years that I've been working on this stuff. It's just a small time there. But when you're having fun, the time goes by so quickly. But I would say what the board needs to consider is the language that we'll put on the ballot. And that's something we don't have to do today, but that was something that would be part of what we would need to do. I've spoken to the supervisor of elections. He will get back to me on what date in March of next year he's going to put those special elections that are already in place for that time that have to be done at that time. I think there's usually something in Venice, and perhaps maybe some of you know, and something in Longboat. But he didn't have all the specifics of that when we chatted, but we will do our special election at the same time that we have those other special issues on the ballot. We'll have to take a vote on doing this and let the county commission know and put that on their ballot to approve it and send it over to the supervisor of elections, and then we will have a contract with the supervisor of elections. We discussed the things that might cause the price to increase a little bit this year, like more absentee ballots. Absentee ballots are more expensive than voting in public. But the reason that we normally look at March, and aside from the fact that we've been asked sometimes to have it at a general election in November, we're just off. The sunset of this is in June 30th of 2022. So if we actually put it on the ballot in November of 22, there really isn't much of an election this November, but the next year, if we put it on the ballot, we'd miss a year. We need this money badly. It is the two things that we need to tell everybody is it's a continuation, it's not new. And also that the reason we have decided to do it in March is because the month of March is the month when most residents or property owners in Sarasota County are here. Does this make a big deal of difference in who votes? Probably not. But maybe because so many more people are voting by mail this year, maybe we'll have more people who in fact will, and of course you know that you have to ask to have mail-in ballots now every 2 years, not every 4 years. That's just changed with this election. And there are some finite changes that happened. So the thing that we need to do is to decide when, send it over to the county commission, and have a contract signed with the supervisor of elections. I would say probably sometime in the fall. We normally try to get it to the county commission by July or August, and that would be my thought, and then have it go over to the county commission and be voted on, because we really need to be in campaign mode sometime during the fall.
Bridget?
Thank you. Yeah, no, I know we typically reverse engineer it based on talking to the supervisor of elections. So once we have that blakened it out, thank you for the update on the potential increased cost with absentee ballots. Dr. Asplund, you mentioned a committee forming. Which committee? Which committee are you talking about?
There will be a
Financial advisory board?
stakeholders committee,
The
and
financial
if there'll be a stakeholders committee that is part of Citizens for Better Schools, but that's not part of a school district.
Okay, that's what I was
Right.
confused.
But I
I'm
would say-
familiar with the other ones, but that's not
But
the school.
if any of you know of someone that you'd like to be on that committee,
Got it. Okay,
or
I didn't-
work
that's-
on something, please, let's look at it. We can't have two board members. I'm working on it. We can't have two board members working on the committee because of sunshine, but we can certainly have everybody go out and speak and be involved and do things for the referendum. So please don't hesitate to make any suggestions. We want to look at the community from the schools and parent standpoint, and look at the community from the business community standpoint, and then look at some opportunities for communications, for fundraising and that sort of thing. But there's time to get started and probably put something together, hopefully, by the end of August.
Yes, and the school district can't pay for electioneering, but we can do informational things, like like what they have here, this referendum funding from 2017 to 2018, how we use that money. But we can do that again. We can update that. And are we going to be having an update from our Financial Advisory Committee? Because that is one of the things that we've done as we've put forward a Financial Advisory Committee to oversee how we use our referendum funds, that I think they've even gone beyond that and looking at some other funding. But are they going to be presenting to us?
Yes, we talked briefly during the last meeting. I'm not sure when the next one is. Mitzi, do you know when the next one is?
June.
June? And I think they're going to be making they're looking at putting a presentation together to present to us.
That's right.
In July or August?
So, good afternoon. So it's, I believe we actually have a meeting this month to go through it, and there is a draft of a presentation that's been prepared. The new chair, Pam Truitt, has gone through it with myself, and we've made all the edits, and then it's gone out to the members, and then they'll be discussing it at their next meeting, and then once they all agree upon the contents, then they will come to you at an available workshop to present. So I would imagine June.
All right, so we'll look at putting it on a June workshop.
Mm-hmm. If that works.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments about the referendum? Looking at a March, probably going to be voting on it in August. And you're going to be getting the updated costs from the supervisor.
Tentative, yes.
Tentative costs, thank you. Okay. So we'll be looking for that report from the,
We'll have a busy year, and that we'll have the 1 penny on in November, which we hope and pray passes, and then we'll have our special referendum in March. So be a busy year.
well, we had been going over, but we went under time on this one. Good. Superintendent evaluation discussion. Now, the superintendent did give was it a 100-day plan or 90-day plan? 90. And of course, he did this plan before he actually knew us. By us, I mean the whole district and a position of a superintendent. So I think that was reflected in a few of his goals that I thought went a little further than they needed to. But we talked about having the scoring metrics to follow what the teachers are on their. Did you get those?
Laura, can you tell us what the PRIDE evaluation form, as far as the numbers are? I know we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have highly effective, needs improvement, unsatisfactory. I know at one point developing was one of the items, and I know that was under the Marzano research, I believe, but
Yeah, I think we had that for Lori's development.
but we don't have that anymore. So if we could use the one that the teachers use, that's perfectly fine with me.
So highly effective needs improvement and unsatisfactory. Those four to match what we've got on the school district. Karen?
Yeah, I think that's great. And thank you, Dr. Asplund, for wanting to be aligned to the instructional evaluations. Will they also be aligned to the teacher and principal evaluations with the numbers versus just the categories?
I think that's a question that I know you all wanted to talk about. I know you've done it both ways in the past. Wasn't sure which way you preferred.
Well, I prefer the way that our instructional staff, with you as an instructional leader, the way that our teachers are evaluated and our principals are evaluated, I think would be quite complementary, as well as include, it allows the feedback from each and every board member and the experience and talent that comes from each of the individual 5 board members in representing the community would be ideal. Thank you.
I think the problem that we had last time is when we had the 1 through 4 or whatever it was, is then how do you add, because a teacher, when they're being evaluated by one person. We're being the superintendent will be evaluated by 5. So do you add up the numbers and divide by 5, or how do you go about that?
Well, in a teacher evaluation, you're doing just that. or a principal, you're looking at all the different standards and benchmarks, and you're giving each one of those standards and benchmarks the equivalent of the categories that we discussed up to highly effective, and you are attaching a number to that. You are adding all those numbers and coming up with a outcome that's representative of all of the benchmarks.
So that's true. And so at a school, for instance, or throughout our school district, I believe we have inter-rater reliability, and we've worked on that before, correct? You've done that in the past. And so inter-rater reliability with the assistant principals and the principals who would do walkthroughs of different classrooms so that everybody is pretty close on the same page as to what they're looking at, what they see, and what they're putting down on their paper. And so with that said, any administrator might go into a particular teacher's classroom and actually do an evaluation, knowing that the inter-rater reliability has occurred throughout the year, and then those numbers are averaged. They're averaged, I believe. Do any of you want to talk about how you complete? I haven't been through an evaluation process in Sarasota, so Laura, thank you.
So each administrator is assigned a certain number of teachers that they're evaluating, and they are collaborating on one document and give that teacher one document. But the biggest responsibility goes to the person who handles all the observations and the conferencing. What you're doing is taking 5 of those, and unless you collaborate to do one document, you have to figure out how you're going to combine the scores.
So the iterative reliability, that's the collaboration part, and everybody's on the same page, and you talk through it, and then an evaluation occurs. I know my experience with principals, for instance, has been assistant superintendents, for instance, evaluating principals, but then also getting together with the other assistant superintendents and the superintendent in the same fashion to evaluate principals, but also having that iterative reliability and that collaboration to come up with that final evaluation.
So what you're saying is that because of you're correlating 5 board members, each one having an obligation and an accountability to have input, that the numbers wouldn't have inter-rater reliability. May I ask, if you do an evaluation without numbers, how you come up with a final evaluation and how that represents the accountability of each and every board member that's been elected to this office to provide oversight over a superintendent?
So if you're asking me, I have only been involved in evaluations that have numbers.
Well, I guess I'm asking.
So as far as the superintendent is concerned and the board members are concerned, knowing that because of sunshine you can't get together and collaborate, and that's what you're saying, I know. You know, I don't know how you would do it without numbers. So that is a great question, Karen. So I'm not sure. I think that's something that you all will need to talk about to figure out exactly how you want to do that.
Well, I don't think you can, so I'm interested in the proposal.
All right, Laura?
I just want to offer that Denise Cantalupo, Dr. Cantalupo, is great with evaluation, and if you want her at a workshop and you can talk with her, she'll come up with some ideas like merging each indicator that you evaluate, merging your scores, and then coming up with a final evaluation. But I'm just offering. She offered that, I believe, a few years back. And I know she would be delighted to work with you if you want her at a workshop.
We're getting down to the wire on board, when we're going to have workshops and when we're going to be able to meet again. But we have to do this by June 30th, so I think there's still some time. But what I'm hearing, well, I haven't heard from everyone yet. Let everyone talk. Bridget?
Yeah, I'll be quick. I agree. I think where we've gotten into, it was more challenging from the numerical standpoint, was different weights. We have 8 goals here, right? We're going to be moving forward to do a more robust evaluation aligned with our strategic plan and moving forward, right? So we can, but from here, in my opinion, I think the easiest way and most fair way is we have the denominator as 8. And you have 1 through 4 for each one, and you add them up and you divide them. And then we have a timeline. This is also learning from past, where with past successes and failures, is have a specific time frame when that is to be completed. So we have our interview with our superintendent individually. We complete it. We provide it to Mrs. Tompkins before our meeting, and then it's presented at that point. Very simple. That is my suggestion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Tom?
I'd like to remind everyone that it was the board's responsibility to give goals and evaluation document when Dr. Asplund was hired. That was in the contract. So we are fortunate that we are working from Dr. Asplund's supplied goals. And so I think what's important is that I like the simple process of getting through this particular one, but as I had suggested at our last meeting, is that we have a mini retreat so that we don't find ourselves in this position again, and get those that knocked off our to-do list so that it does match the strategic plan and we're good to go.
Hey, thank you. And again, one of the problems that you normally has set goals out, we're not getting test results and none of that on a timely basis. And with this COVID time, it just makes it a little more difficult. But this year we'll be going with what Dr. Aspin put forward to us, but with an understanding, he put these forward, and he hadn't been a superintendent before. So, and I said, "Are you sure you want?" And he says, "I'm ready to stand on everything that's here, even though I think some of them might not have been appropriate. Like the one to meet individually with board members on a daily or weekly basis. Are you kidding me?" But, I said, well, he does on a weekly basis tell us what he's doing. And he's available by phone any day that we want. So that was the first thing I looked at. I said, what? You're not meeting with us daily, nor do we want you to. So, I think we have to keep some of those things in mind when we're looking at this. Jane?
And I think the word delegate comes in mind, because I think some of these, I was like, place artwork in the lobby of every school. I don't see that as your job. That is not what we are paying you to do. I think it's a wonderful idea, but that's not on my list.
He did say, I asked him about that too, and he said, but that was one of the things I'm sorry, I shouldn't talk to you, but at the cabinet meeting that he talked to the principals.
Yeah.
And they're working at it at their school place.
Yeah, and I think it's a great idea, but I think we really got behind this year, and I apologize to you for that, because we really should have looked at this more closely. It's good that we've had this, and this is something you've worked on and has been in front of you. But we'll do better next year with a retreat or whatever we have to do. We'll do better next year. But I will look at this year as being the strange year that it has been, and say that I will look carefully and gingerly at whatever the grade or the overall overview that I have, because it has really been a strange year. But I'm okay with that. I would like to, at least at some point in time, maybe before I'm off the board, maybe not, but I know I've been evaluating others, and we have a way of doing that electronically so that the numbers come up and all that kind of thing, and you just feed your shell document in. I think at some point in time we need to look at that. But I'm fine with doing it and the way Bridget suggested, and I think go forward.
Karen?
Yes, thank you. I just want to say that if we're going to, consider test results, we're not eliminating any evaluations with any of our other instructional employees based on that. I think that needs to be said. I am hold myself accountable to focus in on our students and our teachers, and also for the record, per what Mr. Edwards and others have said, I've been asking for benchmarks and standards for the superintendent's evaluation for at least 3 to 4 months. So I need to say that because that's my background and that's my job, and I knew that we needed to be focusing on it. Thank you.
And, we would put forth anything that was brought to us, but the only thing that we've had brought to us is what Bridget has suggested, which is the superintendent's. And again, we apologize but we've had our hands full with all kinds of things. Bridget, you have some?
Yeah, just one last point, and just so that we, again, learning from lessons past, so we don't fall into any kind of situation. I know COVID was, the beginning of the school year was beyond abnormal, and I'm grateful that we would not be in that position now. I think, Dr. Aspin, the strategic plan is scheduled to be done and completed in August. Is that still accurate? And that we might as well say, now let's look at September of putting a retreat in place so we can do that right then, because it's getting the start of the school year. The other thing that I think is, and we need to discuss it at that time particularly, because academics and outcomes of the school year and how certain assessments come out is a part of what we oftentimes put forth for goals. And because we're traditionally seeing them that they're later than what the contract states. I know in the past we had to amend the contract for Dr. Bowden on that aspect to October. So I think that's something we need to address on what makes sense so we're not always playing catch up. And that may be something we have to work with council on from a contractual standpoint, seeing that it be mutually agreed upon. So those are just some thoughts. So if we want to look at the calendar for September.
Thank you. That brings us to the legislative update. Are we having Mr. LaFace tune in
Yes, I
today?
think Ron LaFace and Megan Fay, I believe, are on.
Oh, we've had them waiting all this time?
They're not on? Oh, we're running a little bit early.
Oh, well, that's fine.
They were supposed to be on when? At 4? 4. Let's see if we can get them. Okay.
I know I was talking last night to David and Marilyn Cullen. Some of you may remember they were local, and he at one time was the president of the Florida PTA Association. And from talking to them, it's not always clear what did pass because things got tucked in here and there, for the good, for the bad. So we're going to have to be reading those bills and looking at those things. And I know I look forward to seeing the overview from FSBA and from FADS. You said you're going to, did you get one from FADS already? But
yes.
And then that too is preliminary. They've got to be looking at everything that goes through.
Yes, I think Ms. Tompkins has a copy for each of you.
Oh, good.
This is what came from FADS, and then I know Ron and Megan have a PowerPoint that they're going to show us regarding bills that passed. So we want to take a break until they get on? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can do that.
All right.
Unless there's member comments we want to do ahead of time or just take a break. Either way. We'll stand in recess until we get them on, or 4 o'clock.